Hello, this is Jamie Magrich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. It's really a simple little card, and it's going to be using the January Paper Pumpkin stamp set, which is I'll Be Yours, which is right here. It's really cute. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, I'm also going to be using the Scripty 3D embossing folder. I have some little strips, they're 1/8 of an inch of silver foil, and two that are gorgeous grape. I have a little teeny tiny bow that I've tied. I have a scrap of white, which I'm going to use to stamp on and then punch out using the Darling label punch. I'm going to be using two Stampin' Blend markers, the Gorgeous Grape and the Mossy Meadow. I'm going to be using Memento ink to stamp the Sentiment and Highland Heather ink to stamp this floral background. I have a piece of white, which is 2.5 inches square, a piece of Gorgeous Grape, which is 2 5/8 inches square. I have a piece of Highland Heather, which is 3 by 5 1/4 inches, a piece of white, which is 4 by 5 1/4 inches, a piece of Gorgeous Grape, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and a card base, which is thick, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and adhere this piece to the front of my card base. I'm going to be using the Tombow Mono glue today. It's a multi-purpose glue. And there's just going to be 1/8 of an inch border. Okay, then I'm going to set this aside for a minute. I'm going to bring in the Highland Heather piece, which is 3 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to adhere that to this white layer, which is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to adhere it so that it's a little bit lower down this way, like right about like that. So there's about 1/2 an inch at the top and about 1/4 of an inch at the bottom. Just line up those so that the side edges are the same. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in my Scripty embossing folder. I want the Stampin' Up to be up. I'm going to put it in so that the words are going this way horizontally across the card. And there's this line here so you can tell if you're straight in there. And then I'm going to run it through my machine, and I will be right back. Okay, that's what it looks like now. Okay, then I'm going to take these silver strips and I'm going to adhere one on either side of this little line there. You don't need much glue, very, very little. I don't know if you can see how little I'm putting on there. You don't want it to ooze out because you don't want it to get on the front of this. And this is longer than the piece. It makes it a little bit easier to get it lined up to that edge. I'm just butting it up to the edge of that card. Okay, do the same thing to the other side. I'm just snipping those off. Just butt my scissors up against that edge and snip it off. To the top side. Tiniest little bits of glue. I'm not sure if you can even see it. Do the same thing here. Kind of hiding that edge where those two meet. Okay, I'm going to butt this up. It's easier if you turn it over. Snip it off. Put it against the side. Snip it off. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the grape pieces. Right next to the silver. Push them up together so they meet. Okay, turn it over, butt it against the edge, and snip off that extra. One more. You can see the tiniest little bit of glue. I think you can see it better on this grape piece. Now you could use a whole entire layer behind this if you wanted to. I was just trying to make it a little bit lighter and use a little bit less paper because there's a lot of layers. Alright, and this can get adhered to the front of our card. And again, there's going to be an 1/8 of an inch border. So make sure your words are right side up. Line up the 3 sides and set it down. Okay, I'm going to bring in this piece, the 2.5 inch square. I'm going to bring in this stamp here and the Highland Heather ink. I'm going to ink this up. And it's just a tiny bit larger, this piece, than my stamp. So I'm going to make sure it's inked up well. And I'm going to stamp that right in the center of this. And actually, I'm going to move this white paper so I can actually see where I'm stamping a little bit better. Maybe. I think I'm a little bit off. Yeah, let's turn it over and try it again. I probably should have used a larger block. It'd be a little bit easier to see where I'm stamping. There we go. That'll be better. Much better. Okay. Now we're going to bring in this little piece here and this little tiny flower. We're going to take our Highland Heather Stampin' Right marker. It's the water-based, dye-based ink markers. And I'm going to color just the little tulip part at the top. And then with the Mossy Meadow one, I'm going to color the stem and the leaves. It's teeny tiny, so it really doesn't take much of anything. Okay, and I'm going to stamp that. And just the nature of it, you get a little bit of shading on there, just the nature of how you're drawing with the marker. It just kind of automatically does that shading. Then I'm going to take the Darling Label Punch. There's my original. And I'm going to center that so that this is like lined up with this marks there. And I'm going to punch it. Okay. And I'm going to bring in the Memento ink and the thank you. It's all from the same stamp set. And I'm going to stamp that up in here. Make sure it's inked well. Okay. I'm going to add a couple of our Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this. I don't probably need that many, I just like my things to stay put. Okay. Whoops. Let's put that aside for a minute. Let's go ahead and adhere this to our great piece. Again, it's just the tiniest little edge. Okay. Let it adhere this right to the center of that. I got something on it. Okay. Bring in our card base. And we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of this piece. And that's going to get centered on this. Okay, then I have a little bow knot here, or I did have. Where'd it go? I just had it a second ago. Yeah, I'll just tie another one. And that is from the crinkled seam binding. And it's just a knot, literally. Just tied a knot. Like that. And I took my snips and just snipped the end. Snipped the other end. Then I added a glue dot. And I just rolled up that glue dot. Stuck it to the back of my ribbon, and then stuck that ribbon down here on this corner. There we go. There's our card we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. I'd like to thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find some time to play with some stamps, inks, and paper.